Celebrity crushes. Girls have them. Okay. Sometimes girls have them really badly and it's really awkward and it gets really in depth. Should this matter? Should you care about it? Is it damaging or harmful for the relationship? Or is it not a big deal? And then what do you do about it? So these are all questions I'm going to answer for you today. And those answers may, in fact, shock you. All right. Welcome back to Elevate with Paul, where we're going to have elevated discussions on relationships, dating, sex, and mindset related issues. So today we're going to talk about the celebrity crush, the old celebrity crush. Right? A lot of girls have that, right? And they love to express that vocally around their boyfriends or husbands or long term partners. Why do they do that? Because it's awkward and it puts dudes in a bad position. And it seems that so many women just love to do that and see their guys squirm a little bit. Okay. So I hate to say it, but you know it's true. So, how do we deal with it and should we care? Well, first of all, the extent of the celebrity crush, what it means to her, and how she's thinking about it, all that stuff is going to make a difference as to how harmful it is for the relationship. There's no situation I can think of where a celebrity crush is good or helpful to a relationship. I would love to hear that argument for any of you ladies who listen. Get in the comments, let me know. Jump on my social media, right? Or even dudes, it's fine, whatever. I would love to hear an argument in favor of having a celebrity crush, expressing that crush, and having that be good for your long term relationship. I'm all ears because I don't see any case at all where that's good or productive on either side, whether a dude is obsessed with some chick, that's a celebrity, or whether she's a music personality or a model or actress, or whether it's the guy doing it. I don't think that there's really anything productive or good that comes out of it. Not that, of course, she's going to see attractive people on screen or whatever. Yeah, that's fine, right? So are you. That's fine. Whatever. Having attraction isn't, that's a response. Okay. That's a natural human response. But expressing a crush where you're tracking a certain person and wearing their jersey and making comments about their body parts, all that stuff, is that really productive for your long-term relationship? Probably not. But women love to do this. They do it all the time. Right. And a lot of women do, not all of them. Right. And why? Because it does put you in a weird position. It does make you squirm. It is a bit of a test. Now, you might want to go back a few days ago for where I talked about how women test men, the famous shit test, the different types. And that's kind of what this is. So we'll talk about it. Now, I'm kind of referencing a client of mine. He had a question in an incident involving situation with this girl where the girl made a comment about a football player, we'll say. All right. And just a particular player that she liked. She has his jersey, she's a sports fan. And she was, when he came on the screen, they were not in public, they were in private, but she was like, "Oh, look at that ass." Right. And just saying overtly, talking about his dude's butt. Right. So that was what she did. This is clearly a shit test, clearly. Okay. And so I'm going to kind of address it, but I'm going to address the greater issue. This one is a tricky one, believe it or not. It shouldn't be that tricky, but it kind of is, because what you're dealing with is both a compliance test and a fitness test. Now, social conditioning is going to tell you, and I'm sure we'll get it in the comments, that you're supposed to not care as a dude. You're supposed to sit there and not care and bear and grin and bear it, like not have, oh, that doesn't bother me. Yeah, sure. Go backstage with your backstage passes and I'll just wait out here. I'm sure nothing's going to happen. Hey, all right. That's what society is wanting to condition men to do, and to allow women to have open hypergamy, right? And to be able to mate switch or have a, you know, time potentially with someone they see as a high mate anytime they want to. That's what the society is trying to teach. Not good, right? And I don't expect that is not a good standard to have, to just let a girl that you're investing your long-term relationship energy into as somebody who could potentially go off with somebody else, right? That's not good. And I don't care what society says. It is something to address. It's not something where you should just sit back and pretend like it doesn't exist. Okay. But we're not necessarily dealing with the neighbor or the guy down the street or the guy at work. We're dealing with a celebrity, right? So it is a totally different thing. But it is tricky. So where does, think to yourself, if you're watching me right now, you guys let me know what you think. I'm going to answer it for you really quickly though. What do you think kind of a test this is? If any of you watched my video from a couple days ago, what kind of a test do you think it is? Give you about 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. What do you think? So if you said it's a fitness and a compliance test, both, you would be correct. Okay. It's both a fitness test because she wants to see how you react when she responds to another guy in a sexual manner. And that guy is not somebody who is directly in front of you, right? Like, it's not like she just looked at the waiter or the bartender. You guys are out on a date and she's like, look at that ass. Like, that would maybe make her look socially unacceptable, right? That would clearly come across as a boundary break in any kind of, even a dating scenario, even if you're not in a commitment. That would be a clear boundary violation if she's checking out other dudes, being super vocal about it right in front of you, right? So but she can talk about a celebrity though and get away with it. You're not supposed to be upset because the celebrity is in a sense not a real person. It's somebody on a screen over here. And so that is the sense of it. So it gives her a chance to test your reaction to her showing interest to another guy, but safely. All right. Does she consciously know she's doing this? Probably not. All right. But she is wanting to do that. There's part of her that wonders how possessive you might become. How, what level of freedoms does she have in the relationship? And so she's doing that test. She wants to see how you handle it, because if you handle it with strength or with weakness, so that's the fitness part of the test. And she wants to see if you will comply. Are you going to allow her to break boundaries or be disrespectful or talk about other dudes? Are you going to just allow that to happen, or are you going to not allow it? And so there's the compliance aspect. What can she get away with? And also, how strong or how weak are you? And so it's a kind of multi-dimensional test, which makes it a little bit tricky. Um, it's kind of disrespectful, right? But she can, and it's immature, but that's another thing. But she can hide behind the humor and pretend like it's acceptable because, it's this celebrity out here. All right. Now, how do you handle it? What do you do? So, because it's a little complex and it does depend on what she's doing exactly, the extent of it, right? But and also where you are in the relationship. So I'm going to give you two options here for this little vignette. Now you're going to have to, of course, decide empathetically what is going on with this particular girl and what is her motivation in doing that kind of behavior, and if it's going to be something you should tolerate, not tolerate, say something about, not say it, or whatever. Now your options are twofold. All right. Option number one, which is probably the most viable option, the best option, depending on to what degree she is sort of crushing and demonstrating that crush on a celebrity, is that you take it down. So you can take it up a notch, all right, by confronting it directly and even assertively, or you can take it down a notch by not taking it so seriously. All right, so look at it like that. And in this case, are we going to magnify this to use it as an opportunity to talk about boundaries and create, I don't say create an issue, but address an issue? Or do we want to take it down and diminish the effects of her shit test? So that's kind of what we're looking at. And the answer will depend on her behavior the level of this crush, what kinds of things are going on. And I'll get into that here for a minute. If you guys got questions, throw them in the chat, throw a super down. Doesn't need to be a lot of money. I don't need your money in my super chat. It just helps the painful algorithms that don't like my channel. It does help it a little bit. We want to get this stuff out to guys who could benefit, like yourself, right? And it helps me. So why would I want to take it down and reduce this to being a non-serious thing? Well, there's a number of reasons. One is, remember, celebrity crushes, at least in her mind, are not real people. Generally speaking, they're not. Okay. It's a fantasy. And it's a fantasy that she doesn't necessarily believe she would ever have the opportunity to act on, nor would she necessarily act on it, even if she did have the opportunity. It's just kind of a way of her in her fantasy brain pretending like, she, whatever, it's like she could go off with someone that's considered of high value and status, but it's not a real option for her. She doesn't see it that way. It's not serious for her. And if it became serious, she wouldn't actually execute the option. Her dread would kick in and she would go back home with you, not be the person trying to go backstage, right? There's plenty of stories of girls going off and hooking up with celebrities and getting with their celebrity crushes. You can do a search on the internet or YouTube and find them all over. So that's a real thing that does happen. However, not all girls will have access in that way or attractive enough for celebrity to care about them, nor would all girls necessarily execute the option. Not all girls who have a celebrity crush on a particular guy, they know it's a fantasy. So to give an example, I've had girlfriends who've talked about their celebrity crushes, but mentioned when and these are very attractive women, by the way, who could get these guys, mentioned that when they met them in real life, it was like, oh God, no. There were things behaviorally about them, things physically about them that made them a real person and not a fantasy. And it was like, not really. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where it's at, is she's in this little fantasy thing. She's not in a real thing. So if that's the case, taking it down, not taking it very seriously, treating it like what it is, which is a fantasy, that would be pretty appropriate. All right. Another thing is that she's clearly screwing around. She's not being serious. She may be being immature. Having like a celebrity crush is an immature thing, right? It's something that like teenage girls do. Obviously, so do 40-year-old women, 50-year-old women, right? But they're acting like teenage girls. It's immature. All right. But she's not actually serious when she says things or whatever about it. It's done in a non-serious way. Therefore, you're not going to take it something that's not serious and make a bigger problem out of it when she's not serious. And that might be a reason for you to reduce it and take it down into something not serious, because that's really what it is. And she's not doing other things to demonstrate disrespect either. That would be the thing. Another reason is, let's say you're not sure if she's serious or not. Like, would she actually bang this celebrity given the opportunity, right? You're not sure, but you're going to treat it as if it's not serious because you are going to give her an out and a benefit of the doubt. And sometimes, we can do that. And there's ways of doing that. What you're doing and looking for is compliance, right? Meaning that does she comply with your non-serious tone and not taking her seriously, and recognize that this is not actually serious, even if maybe her celebrity crushed someone she's crushed on for a while. And as a single girl, she definitely would be in the would category. Maybe she's not sure if he's in the would or wouldn't category now that she's with you. But when you treat it non-serious and she gets into a non-serious frame with you and recognizes the not seriousness of this, that this is not something that she would ever want to truly execute as an option. If that's your frame and she follows, that's all you need. It's compliance. You don't need explanations. You don't need understanding even. You just need her to follow your frame, okay, in that sense. And so you're giving her that opportunity. The fourth thing is, if you're not in a commitment with a girl, like you're just dating the girl, it's a non-serious situation, right? You could go off and date other women. You're not committed yet. It's not an LTR. I wouldn't make this a serious issue. I would simply just note it, handle it. And I'll give you some ways of handling it. in a non-serious way and just kind of mentally note it. If she pushes for a commitment later and that's something that's on the table for you, then it's time to maybe address that in a non-judgmental but more rational conversation about boundaries and what's appropriate for conditions and boundaries for giving away the commitment. But that's a later conversation. It's not worth potentially looking weak or butthurt and get, and losing frame over this. It's not worth taking it into a more serious area and ruining your night, ruining your time over somebody you're not committed to. Like, you just want to have a good time with this person, enjoy them, have good experiences, good sex, whatever, and you're back out to being single, and so is she after the night's over, right? If that's how it is, because you're in the begin stages of dating, I wouldn't necessarily blow it up over something like this. You're not at that point in your relationship yet. So those and a final reason why not maybe to bring it up is that really it's not an option for her. And that's why most people don't take it seriously, because it's not an option for them. The girls who are crushing on these celebrities could never get these celebrities to have sex with them, even if they paid them money. Right. And so if that's your situation with your girlfriend, like, this is not an issue really that you need to take seriously. But in my world, and in a lot of people's worlds that I you know counsel, okay, they're women and their status. I mean, these women they're hot enough and have enough sexual market value where they could get a celebrity to sleep with them. Like, they're in that category. I mean, my girlfriend certainly, she could decide to run off with a celebrity at some point if she wanted to. It's whatever. Now, of course, he might use her up for a weekend and drop her off, you know, somewhere on Monday, but or whatever, send her back and not call her. I mean, that's what they do. A lot of these celebrities, it's just they treat a lot of women like that. But I mean, she could still get him for a period of time. So it's not necessarily a situation where it's total fantasy, even if she thinks it's a fantasy. Reality is, if your girl's hot enough and has enough value, she might be able to actually get the guy. And that's a bigger concern, right? So can she get it? Or is it not something that she would ever actually make into a reality, and she knows it? So that makes a big difference as to whether you should take it seriously or not. Big difference between a girl going, oh, I'm going to go backstage and meet my celebrity crush, where, there's a lot of drugs and dicks, but and no boys allowed. You have to stay out here and wait for me. Like, that's a big difference between that scenario and crushing on some celebrity and making a comment about him when he shows up on the television, right? So those are some reasons why you'd want to take it down. I'll take a quick look at our super chats here in some of our conversations. So what do we got here? Hi, M8. What topics convo do you use to keep conversation going after an approach so you connect but aren't just the nice guy? So first thing is, oh man, that's a really long question, and where you need to end up in is in my seduction group for a year. Seriously. I'll try to answer it shortly, but that's where you need to end up, because what you're doing is you're having a conversation with somebody, you're making a connection using a variety of topics. And I have a list of topics and a little acronym for you. I've talked about in other videos, where you're looking to strike the topic that is a green light for her, which means it is a topic that is of interest to her and motivates her to want to talk about it. And then you want to talk about that in such a way where you inspire emotion. So that's taking it from a level 1 conversation to what I call a level 2 conversation. And so that's in the beginning, you're trying to strike into something of interest of her and elevate the emotions. It doesn't have to be a huge elevation, but it just has to be an elevated enough where she's getting positive dopamine reward for talking to you. All right. And you're also doing a bunch of other attractive behaviors with your body language, how you're standing, and your tone of voice. You don't have to sexualize the conversation necessarily, but what's happening is you're having there's your hindbrain and her hindbrain, your mammalian brains are communicating sexually, even if it's just in tone and in body language and where you're standing, how you're standing, and the way that you're talking to her. It's not about what you're talking about. It's about how you're talking to this person. And then from there, you can decide where you want to go next. Are you going to location change? Are you going to do something else? But you're going to demonstrate authority by getting her to comply with whatever the next steps are. And that would include any kind of flirting or sexualizing of the conversation. But you're not going to sexualize in an uncalibrated way either. So that's how you do it. You connect through body language, through tone of voice, and through creating what I call a seductive framework around the conversation because of how you're talking, the stories you're telling, using something called hypnotic language, right? Which involves tone of voice and descriptions and ways of using language and words to get imagery in her head. You're striking onto topics that are interesting to her. The more attractive you are, the more interesting any topic is going to be. And you're striking on those and you're inspiring some dopamigenic hits from the conversation by inspiring some emotion with that conversation. So getting into motivation, getting into, exciting imagery, what have you, and so that's how you do it. That's kind of, I mean, what topics, I mean, I use Ford Gift as an acronym, stands for family, occupation, recreation, dreams. It's a sales thing. I didn't make that one up. But the gift is an addition, geography. So that could be like places you've gone, where are you from? Do you come here? Do you come here a lot? Like those kinds of things, anything involving location. I could be interest, like pets or hobbies or whatever. F is fantasy. So, hey, let's go rob a bank together, whatever it may be. You seem like a bad girl. Okay, that's fantasy stuff. And T is togetherness. Okay, so anything applying you two doing something together, which takes it into more of a level 3 framework, which is you two being together while doing something. So that's your acronym, Ford Gift. And you want to learn how to recognize her response and know when to pivot into another topic and ask questions and use tactical empathy. So no, I did not make up Oda. Thanks, though. The Oda loop is not something I made up. That was made up by a pilot a long time ago, and they got applied into law enforcement military circles. So anyway, back to the topic wherever I left off. So great question, though. So now let's get back into the shit test. How are we handling it? Okay, so are we taking it down or are we bringing it up? So I gave you a bunch of reasons why we would take it down. Most of the time, you're going to take it down into something that's not serious, and most of the time, it's not serious for her. Okay, so that's where you're at. It's not something worth getting butt hurt over. Remember, she's not talking about the line cook at the local diner that you guys just went to. She's talking about a celebrity on the screen that's a fantasy person. Okay, but to not address it though could be problematic because it's going to imply that you might comply with her disrespect, which will make you look into a weaker frame, right? So the ways of handling it is to handle it like it is disrespect and treat it as such and highlight that and handle that, or treat it as if it's a non-serious joking situation where you're not perceiving it as disrespect, but as something that is not serious or more or less a joke. And if you're not sure where she's at, to play it safe, treat it like it's a joke and see if she complies. If she is pushing it in and talking about this celebrity and continues a track of, fantasy and idealization, then you can shift into, okay, we're now getting into disrespectful territory, right? But it's I would treat it like it's non-serious as a default. Most of the time that's going to work, but I'll tell you when it's not going to work too. So let's say she says, look at that ass on that football player. You might be like, hell yeah, babe. I felt the same way about the girl that waited on us at the seafood place earlier. All right. You just reference a local girl that you guys just saw, whether it's true or not, and see what her response. And she's like, oh, you're such a dick. I'm like, yeah, so are you. Right. And then you're not treating it serious. Okay. So that would be an example of not treating it seriously. a lot of this is going to depend on your dynamic between you and this particular girl, right? What's your personality like? What's your sense of humor like, right? You might laugh with general amusement, just be like, what the hell is wrong with you, and just kind of treat it like that, like you're fucked up, right? And then you're just kind of laughing at it, and it's like whatever, and then see how she reacts from that. She acts like it's not serious and like she's testing you, and she kind of laughs, then that's fine. You can continue with that. Maybe you might say, like, joke around, like, not to say you would actually, have an abusive relationship with somebody, but you might be like, oh, what are you trying to say? I'll beat that ass, girl, like joking around, though, you're not going to actually beat her ass, right? Hello, YouTube, don't freak out on me. But it's like, that's a joking thing. And if you have that dynamic with her, maybe it's a joke about, I'm gonna fuck you up later, or whatever. And like, I'll joke around, like, sometimes, like, with my girl, like that. Oh, I'll fuck you up later, right? And really, I mean, in a sexual dynamic later, like, we're kidding. Okay, so it's different when there's joking around and that's the way it's being treated, and you're treating it like that. And it also makes a difference too that she's not doing this in public around other people where the wrong impression could be given out, right? And so these are examples of treating it like it's a shit test and like it's not serious. By doing that, you're showing, well, I'm not complying with this framework that you can just talk about some dude without me responding or having anything to say, but I'm not taking it serious either, where I'm going to perceive something as disrespect that you don't intend as disrespect and really is just fantasy and more or less a joke and a test. And I'm going to joke around and treat it non-seriously, right? So it demonstrates strength because you're not getting butt hurt, but it also demonstrates that you're not complying to her just talking about other dudes, right? Um, you know, in another joke with, or kind of in a joking tone, you could just be like, you know what? I think you should go try to meet him. You should probably DM him. Yeah, I think you could be successful, babe. I think you could get this guy to hook up with you for a weekend or have him fly you out. You should give it a shot. I mean, I'll just be over here enjoying my single life if you do, but hey, go right ahead. And so you're not really taking it serious, but you're kind of letting you're giving that tone or that energy of, yeah, like, you go do whatever you want, but you're not necessarily going to have me at the end of that, right? And that kind of lets her know the boundary and where it stands, but you're not taking it seriously, right? So these are like examples of what to do when you're taking this thing, this test, and this little celebrity crush scenario, and you're taking it down, right? And treating it not seriously. Now let's talk about when you might want to take it up and blow it up, right? When do we want to blow it up and treat it like something a little bit more serious because we're not okay with her behavior? All right. You don't want to blow something up and overreact, make an issue out of something that's not a real issue. That's not what you want to do. But, if it is an issue and it needs to be addressed, and then that means we need to take it up a notch, because what she's trying to do is diminish the level of disrespect by utilizing a celebrity. And if it's an issue, right? If there's things and dynamics here that make the celebrity crush disrespectful to the relationship, what she's doing is hiding behind, oh, it's just a celebrity, it's not serious, to hide behind that to allow for this disrespect. And that's not okay. So we're gonna take it from this sort of neutral, what, I didn't do anything wrong, to, yeah, you did, it's disrespectful. We're not going to do that. We're going to take it up a notch. All right. So sometimes we take an issue, we blow it up for a reason. This is one of those scenarios where you may want to consider doing that. Okay. So when would you consider blowing it up? Well, if she's blatantly disrespectful about it, especially in public, right, then that's where you want to set a boundary right there. That's when it's not okay. Right. How about if it's more than just a test, like she's a little bit more serious than joking? Like, there is a risk she would run off with another dude, if that's her framework. Well, maybe you want to address that and possibly reduce that commitment that you have with her too, right? Because that's a bigger issue now. Okay. Um, how about she's attractive enough to get the guy, right? Like, if your girl is like, and this is not for most of you listening here, this does not apply to you. No offense, it just doesn't. But some of you guys, though, that listen to me, have very attractive women in their 20s, in their prime, super attractive. some, celebrity crush that some guy who plays in a band, or, some whatever, or some music dude, or some athlete. She could absolutely end up in the DM of some athlete and end up hooking up with that guy, because if she's at that level, happens all the time. I've met and dated these women before. Okay. So it's not out of reach. Okay. If it's within her reach, then it's not just a fantasy anymore. And that's a bigger problem. Now, she may think, oh, this isn't real, it's a fantasy, but that's why you're going to blow it up and address it, because it actually isn't a fantasy. It's actually something you could pull off potentially, whether it's with him or another equivalent celebrity or personality. And I'm not going to be in a relationship with somebody who would want to do that. You know what I mean? Who doesn't see me as the guy that she wants to be with, and who would risk what she has with me for a short term situation with some celebrity dude. If that's where her mind's at, that tells me what she thinks about me. That tells me what she thinks about relationships and how she thinks about commitment and loyalty. And therefore, that's not somebody I want, right? So she needs to start demonstrating something very different, and she needs to start demonstrating something different very quickly. Okay. So it's a lot different when a girl is like a 9 or a 10 level girl and could get the guy and she's doing that shit. Way different than your average girl doing it. Okay. So that's a reason of wanting to address it if that's the case. And a final reason would be, you know, just that it's a hard boundary for you. This is something that bothers you. It's a hard boundary. It's not good for the relationship. We've already established that. So you don't want to lose your mind, though, and lose emotional self-control. Remember from a few days ago, we talked about shit tests. The way that you lose is losing your emotional self-control, and, getting butt hurt and all that stuff is how you lose these tests. That doesn't mean that you have to always have amused mastery and never set standards or boundaries. You can be assertive and say, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm not listening to you talk about be like talk like that while I'm around. I'll see you later. Like, you can fucking be assertive if you have to be, and set a hard boundary. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not somehow weak. You know what I mean? That's where the psyops has been working for some of you guys, where you think that setting a hard boundary is the same thing as getting insecure butthurt because some chicks on the internet said that. Well, it's just not true. Setting boundaries, setting conditions for relationships, and being assertive about it if you have to be, especially in the presence of disrespect, that's okay. And that's not from a place of insecurity. It's coming from a place of self-respect, right? And respecting and valuing yourself. Okay. And so that's the difference there. So these are reasons you may blow it up. Okay. All right. So let's pretend. So some examples. Let's pretend in public, she does something like, or it's pretty blatant, perhaps you just get up and leave. You don't even create drama, no argument. You just look at her like, what the fuck? You shake your head, you get up and you bounce. She can Uber home if you drove, right? Like, whatever. And you're not going to tolerate that. You demonstrate with your silence and your feet that that's not okay. That's one option. You have to calculate, though, if that's worth it, depending on the nature of the situation and how disrespectful, how bad she's being. Okay. Another one would be that you give her a verbal warno, so to speak, and you're leaving because of the disrespect, and her options are to come with you or stay, but you're not putting up with that. And you could say, hey, you can come with and I'll drive you home, or you can stay here and oogle other men all by yourself. I'm out either way. So which is it? I'm going to the car. You make your choice. I'll give you 5 minutes, and you bounce. You know what I mean? And there's no real discussion. You can discuss in the car. You can discuss on the way to wherever. And that's, handling now a conflict or argument discussion. Done other videos on that. But that's how you would handle that, because, she was being disrespectful. You're just not going to tolerate that. And maybe it'll be perceived that you are overreacting to the level of disrespect. But again, we're elevating it from where she's this comfortable place she's trying to hide behind, where she can covertly disrespect you. We're going to take that and expose it. So we're elevating it. And that's simply by doing things like calling elephant out in the room, is a technique I talk about, which is where you say it what it is. Look, you know what? It's just disrespectful to do that. If I was talking about other girls, I don't care if it was on screen or if it was the bartender, it wouldn't be okay. I would look like a jackass as a guy doing that. I would look like an immature dude who just doesn't respect his girl. And that's exactly how you looked in there. I'm not okay with it. And that's just why I'm not okay. I don't feel threatened. If you want to go off and try it with another guy, you are welcome to it. In fact, I encourage it. Don't let me hold you back. You won't have me in a relationship, but you're welcome to go do that. But I am not going to sit here if we're going to be together and be disrespected over other men. I don't care if it's a celebrity or not, especially in public like that. And you have that discussion the same way I just told you here on YouTube. And she might not like it, and that is okay. It's called setting a boundary, and she can comply or goodbye, right? So again, you're going to make this a serious thing when she's trying to be. She might say, "Oh, I was just kidding. It wasn't serious, or whatever." Be like, "Yeah, you know what? You're just kidding. Cool. I understand a lot of people do that. I'm not, but I understand I'm not okay with that, right?" And you're going to get compliance. And maybe she complies. You go to a different bar or restaurant. You guys are cool, right? I had that happen to some girl. This is a while ago, a couple of girlfriends ago, whatever. But some girl that I was a couple girls ago, someone I was seeing. But yeah, she was like, topic of some celebrity came up, and she was like real obnoxious about it. She was like, and I just wasn't having it. I said, that's disrespectful as fuck, and I'm not okay with it. And I asked for the check, and I said, we're going. And we were staying for the weekend somewhere. I'm like, I'm going back to the hotel room, and you can decide whether you want to grab your things or how you want to handle it. But I'm not dealing with that disrespect. I mean, it was like poop, hard stop, and she was like all offended, like I'm not, whatever, and you're just you're being insecure. You're being pulled the insecure card. I'm not insecure. I'm just not going to be disrespected. You know what I mean? And it was just like, and I had no I'm not having a discussion with you unless that discussion is okay. I maybe came across as disrespectful. Let's deal with this. And we had a Luca discussion later, and it was fine. And she never did that again. But it was worth elevating and blowing up because it was so overt or blatant. She said something like real serious, like, I would suck that dude off right in front of you. Oh, he's so hot. It was like super trashy, right? And I'm just like, first of all, you're gross. Second of all, what the fuck, is wrong with you? Like, come on, right? So that's, these situations that happen, they happen. And so you have to decide based on the gravity of it, where you're going to take it, and sometimes you have to blow something up to cause a reasonable discussion because she's trying to hide behind this issue here, right? So another thing is, by blowing it up, you don't necessarily have to be emotional about it either. I'm not saying that, and you don't have to leave. Maybe it doesn't warrant leaving. Maybe she's doing it public or private. A simple way of handling it if you're not leaving a public place because she was so blatantly disrespectful. But a simple, different way of handling it would just be to look at her and say, no, honey, we don't play that shit. No, we don't do the celebrity crush thing. I know people do that. I'm not into it. It makes you look immature and disrespectful to me. And that's not something we're going to do. And that's all you say, just like that. So if you notice what I'm doing, if I'm blowing it up, is I'm not making it about the guy. I'm not making it about, oh, you think he's better than me? Then go ahead. Like it's not anything like that. It's not me against this other dude. I'm not having an insecure reaction. I'm not having an emotional reaction. I am addressing the problem, which is disrespect. Okay. So I'm perceiving that, talking about other dudes in a sexual way and crushing other dudes, be it celebrity or not, is not a thing that you would do in a long-term relationship situation because it's disrespectful, right? And so with that, that's what I'm focused on. She wants to try to gaslight the conversation, take it into, oh, you're insecure, or oh, I wasn't serious, or oh, I was just joking around. You have no sense of humor. That's all fine, but that's not what this is about. It's about respect. And we're going to respect each other if we're going to be together, and that's it. Right. And so you focus on respect. When you focus on the issue of respect, now you've passed that shit test because you're not getting butthurt or being emotional. It's not about the other dude. It's not about your fitness, right? In comparison to someone else's fitness, you are valuing yourself as much as any other guy out there. She has a choice, which is to value you as more valuable because she is with you than anyone else out there, or to not do that, which would be disrespectful, and then she doesn't get to have you, right? That's the options that she has, and you're illustrating that with this. You're illustrating your value. You're not devaluing yourself by making yourself look quote unquote insecure, despite on what other women might try to spin that into or say. It's all about how you handle it. Okay. And so if you make it more serious, it's about the respect. It's not about the other guy, And again, you could say to her, like, I don't care if it's this guy, this high level celebrity, or if it's the bartender down the street. It's not about the guy, it's about the respect, And I don't want you talking about other guys like that sexually, right? Overtly in front of me, in front of other people, as if we're not in a relationship and I'm not banging you. That's not cool. And I'm not going to do that to you. So that's it. That's the standard. And you illustrate the standard. So you've taken it up and you've illustrated a standard. She's not going to like it. Okay. She might get butt hurt. That's fine. Let her be butt hurt until she decides not to be. You're not budging on the standard. Most girls will not blow up a relationship over this. And if they do, it wasn't worth the relationship. It wasn't worth the commitment that fell out of her mouth when she said she was going to be with you and not with other dudes. That didn't mean anything. If she can't abide by simple rules of respect, she don't love you, that's for sure. And her framework is not healthy for any kind of long-term relationship, like her mental framework isn't. And she probably has some maturity issues too if she's crushing on fantasy people. That's something that kids do. That's not something that adults with developed brains do, right? And so these are all things that you can do, and these are all ways to handle it. And so take this with you and handle your shit. Thanks for tuning in.